Hey guys, thanks for joining us for our workshop live. We're happy to have you guys here. Thanks for chiming in. Looks like there's a few of you both already in the comments, holy cow, and watching. So we're happy to have you guys watching along, and hope to get some of your questions answered. First off, Kyle.
Yes.
You picked up a new knife over Christmas, or someone picked up a new knife for you.
Yep.
I'm kind of jealous.
So I picked up the new Osborne. It's the Mini from Benchmade, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm a big fan of the bailout and the bug out, but I just wanted something different and something lightweight for an EDC. So this is going to be my new everyday carry, or at least in the rotation. And I'm pretty stoked about it, how it turned out. I like the little blue on the inside, and then super lightweight, and I've always wanted an Osborne, just that unique blade shape. So I'm pretty stoked about it, and thanks, honey. Appreciate it. So
Those are, I'm jealous. I was just saying, I'm really, I want to pick up the Auto, the 9400, but I'm not stoked on the green right now.
Yeah.
So I really like that color scheme. I hope they bring that to the...
That's why I held out. I wanted something black, but didn't want to conform to all the bailout bug outs that are out there. So something different.
A little bit of a rebel.
Yep, exactly.
We picked up a ton of good questions ahead of time on Instagram. If you guys don't follow us on Instagram, head over there. You'll hear news of live events like this. And also, if you haven't picked up a precision adjust, your best chance of finding a precision adjust is by following us on Instagram, because we'll talk about where we can get those. We have a few that we've shipped out, and they're just coming into stock at different points with retailers. And so sometimes you can get your hands on them. Yep. And I will answer one question we got is, when will that be back in stock? Again, just stay close, watch with us. We are, like you can probably hear in the background, there's a lot of work going on outside in the rest of this building. We're building a lot of those right now, and it's our goal to get those in stock end of January, beginning of February, but they will have limited batches here and there. So stay close with us. All right, we'll just dive into a couple of these. As you guys have questions, let us know. Someone asked, are there replaceable stones for the field sharpener? Yes. Worksharptools.com, you can get the diamonds, the coarse and the fine diamond are available, as well as replacement leather strops and ceramic rods. So the whole thing can totally be swapped out and replaced and made as good as new.
Yep. Super simple.
Someone asked, can you sharpen scissors using the GFS? Kyle, I think you got some scissors over there.
I do. As soon as I get my GFS put back to the right way. So, yes, you can. And I really like, anyone that's new to sharpening, I actually prefer them to start sharpening on like a GFS with a pair of scissors, because it's really low risk. And it teaches you to kind of match an angle. So it's really easy to see the angle of the bevel on a pair of scissors. So basically you just lay it in there at the proper angle and you draw across. Now, one thing you don't want to use is like the coarse abrasive. So use your finer abrasives when it comes to your scissors. But it really teaches you to follow that bevel in a way that teaches you to hold a consistent edge when you're drawing across that stone. So when you go to use your knife, you've got a little bit more of an idea of what it is to find the proper angle of the bevel of a knife. And this works great for scissors as well. You don't have to do the backside of them. Basically, they're self-steeling. So as you just keep working up that burr as you draw across, then you can just go ahead and close your scissors up and they're good to go. So it's super simple, easy to use. We've got a lot of good options when it comes to scissors, but yes, the short answer is you can do it on your field sharpener. Anything to add there, Josh?
No, great. Okay. I'll recognize KK5SC says Santa got me a Ken Onion edition and he's getting used to it. What are our thoughts on using stropping belts? I see a number of aftermarket ones for the Ken Onion edition. Honestly, I don't... Stropping belts can be interesting. One thing that I would do is you can take a compound, and as you have one of the purple belts, one of the fine 12,000 grit belts, or 6,000 grit on the Ken Onion edition, 12,000 grit on the blade grinding attachment, you can actually rub that compound into the belt as it's worn, and it gives you this really nice shine and creates a mirror polish on the knife. You don't have to buy a new belt. Just when that belt gets older, get a replacement set and use some compound on the original belt. The aftermarket ones are okay. I would be careful of any leather belts just because they stretch and they can crack and your knife will cut into them. And we tried that. We thought it would be a great idea, but it doesn't work out super well. On the blade grinding attachment, we make cotton belts with no abrasive in them that are specifically designed to take a compound abrasive. So like a green half micron or micron compound. And rub that in as you're going, and that way on the blade grinding attachment, the belt rotates one direction. I think I've got one here. The belt rotates in one direction only, and so as you bring the knife to the sharpener, it's always stropping rather than the belt coming into the edge. Let's see. Nice to see the Precision Adjust arrive in the UK. Yes, for those of you in the UK and Europe, Knives and Tools and a few others through like the Boker family of brands and distributors. We should have some arriving now and available.
Yes.
Best way of determining the factory angle when I'm using the KO or the Ken Onion Edition. So the Ken Onion Edition without this, let's see. A Sharpie is a great option for that. Like we've talked about, you color the edge of the blade, and so you end up with getting our crew here. Color the edge of the blade, and then as you rest that in the belt, I would start at your best guess. And so maybe if you got an everyday knife, maybe a 20 degree. And then if it's sharpening at the top and not removing the Sharpie at the edge of the bevel, then you're sharpening too wide. No, you're sharpening too narrow. You'd be sharpening at 15 degrees and the knife is at 20 degrees or something like that. If you're sharpening only at the tip, it means you're coming in too obtuse. You're sharpening at 30 degrees when the knife is at 20 and you're only making contact at the tip. That also is a technique used to micro bevel if you don't want to change the whole profile of the blade or to sharpen the whole blade, but just to create a small micro bevel. I like using the Sharpie. We've also got a tool right behind Kyle. There's that goniometer.
It's fun to say.
You can buy one of these. They're like maybe 60 or 80 bucks, and it's a laser pen that shines a laser. Well, and then you get the knife into the, rest the knife pointed straight at it. The laser is divided by the knife blade and shows you what angle that's at. And I can't see, but it looks like we're maybe 18 degrees per side. It's coming in right under 20. Yeah, looks like you guys can see that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll use just the Sharpie method, and I put the angle of the edge that I want on the knife. I'm not always trying to match the factory edge, but it depends on the goal and what you're looking for. And
I'll add that when you buy your work sharp, we always send out like kind of a guide when it comes to that. So if you've got an EDC, we'll get you close with the angles, whether it's 20 or 25. If you're sharpening a kitchen knife, we've got kind of your best starters when it comes to that sort of thing. So whenever you buy a work sharp, we try and dial you in when it comes to that as well. So we got you. And don't be afraid to ask us on Instagram or YouTube in the comments. We're happy to help there as well. So.
Yep. Now I know says, should I get the guided field sharpener? It's very coarse. I don't know if that's good. I think I read somewhere it helps sharpen faster if it's coarse. I just don't know if that's true though. First of all, you're asking the right people. Yes, you should get the guided field sharpener. It has a coarse diamond, which is like a 320. It has a fine diamond, which is a 600, more of a medium grit. And then it has the fine ceramic, which isn't measured in the same grit, but it's about like 1,000 to 1,200 grit equivalent. And then a leather strop, which has the green compound. That's like the half micron or the half to 1 micron size compound. Really fine. You can get great results. It's a field sharpener, so yes, it equips you with a coarse abrasive so that you can sharpen a knife in the field if it gets really dull. And I use the field sharpener all the time just for like daily maintenance, using the ceramic and using the leather. Like it sits on my dresser. I use it all the time. So I think it's an awesome tool. One of my favorites of all the sharpeners we make.
Same. I love it for like camping when I'm sitting by the fire. There's something cathartic about like sitting there and just like listening to the knife draw across as you're sitting there sharing stories by the fire. There's something about it that's special that I really like about the field sharpener. So yeah.
House of Q, help me out, guys. How do you sharpen meat slicing blades? I have the Ken Onion edition. Is this the right tool? Yeah, I'm picturing like a large meat slicer for like almost like a restaurant serving. Help me out if I'm wrong there, but yes, Ken Onion's a great tool for that. The edge guide helps you, long blade, you can hold the same angle consistently. I would recommend a fine angle on that, something like 15, 17 degrees. It's a thin knife, and so it takes a thin angle and makes a really great cutting tool. Leave the fine abrasive or the fine belt on the Ken Onion and come back and touch it up like before you use it. If you are at a restaurant, like before you serve every night, or before any event if you're just hosting for your family for Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever. What is the durability of the diamond you sell, months or years? I'm going to talk about that in terms of knives or knife sharpenings, because that's really how you use it. It's treated really well to prevent against rust. We actually, we've done tests in a controlled, I don't even know what it's called, big humidity chamber with pressure and but it's cool. And so it prevents they don't rust. Awesome metal. Yep. The abrasive that holds the diamond on is actually proprietary for us and the partners we work with to create that, and the diamond stays really well. Obviously, it cuts better and cuts faster when it's new, but with wear, the diamond is still harder than the steel of your knife. No matter what steel you have on your knife, the diamond is still harder, and so it'll still cut. You may just have to lean in a little bit more. When you're at a point where you're feeling like you're not getting the results you want in the time you're spending, then you can upgrade, and it's like $7 or $8 for a plate. So, not trying to gouge you there, just to use it. I would bet that you could do like a full-on sharpening of knives that have, let's say, like super steels, S30V, like 100 knives that were dull and now sharp, and your plate should continue to perform. Mm-hmm. And the ceramic can just be cleaned and then it keeps running. But the diamond will last for a long time.
Yep. That was another question someone added about knife steels. Are there different sharpening methods more appropriate for different grade steels? And I would just say have patience and keep working at it. S30V is a tough steel, but man, does it retain an edge once it's done. And it can be tempting to try to get, if you're using a manual sharpener, to try to get more aggressive with it, but lighter strokes yield a better result. So just be patient, keep working at it, and eventually you'll get that edge that you're looking for. All of our, like Josh was saying, abrasives are harder than that steel. So you are removing material, whether it feels like it or not, when you're working with a hard steel like that, and you'll eventually get that result you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Another question about the Ken Onion. When you're sharpening on the Ken Onion, do you use the primary grind or the flat spine as the reference plate? You may be talking about the Elite sharpener, because that reference plate, let's leave that out. Yep. So the reference plate is here, and you use that, and I use the flat part of the spine. That's what's determining the edge angle. And so the flat part of the spine is on the reference plate. Bring that up to the belt and sharpen there. The same thing is true if I'm using the Ken Onion without the blade grinding attachment. I will reference it with the spine rather than on the primary. And that might take a little bit of getting used to. The biggest thing to keep in mind here is to make sure that you have consistency every time you come back. So you're not sharpening one time using the reference of the spine and then the other time using the reference of the primary. That's going to create inconsistent results. You'll remove a little bit more material than you need to because you're changing angle. So whatever you are doing or have been doing, continue that, or make a change once and then continue in the future that direction. And that's going to preserve your knife and give you the best results.
Yep.
Got just a pile of sharpeners going on under the table here. All right, I'm going to jump back into some of the ones we got ahead of time. Kyle, what's your favorite? Someone asked, like, what's the best kitchen knife sharpener? What's your favorite?
I would go with the E5, simply because it's super easy to use, and really takes a lot of the guesswork out. It's got the leather line guide, so you can use your nicer knives on it and not have to worry about that rubbing up against the edge of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Josh can pull those out and kind of show those to you. And it's designed to be used in the kitchen, which is nice as well. It's a clean little unit. It's got an area where there's actually a magnet down there that's pulling all the grit off of there. So you're really talking about, a clean workspace. And you just literally pull it in at the angle and draw it through. It's got guides for east and west knives as well. So if you've got like a Wüsthof, you can put the west guides on there. If you've got like a Schoon, you can put the east guides on there. So it's really adaptable, but it's still really simple to use. You got variable speeds where you just I don't know if it's plugged in right now, but basically it's 3 clicks, 2 clicks, or 1 click, depending on the condition of your knife, whether you're fully putting a brand new edge on it all the way down to where you just need to refine it. I used this on Christmas Day on my mom's knives, and yeah, they were really impressed by the time that was done. My wife even nicked herself with one of them because it was so sharp. But that was just mishandling, not because the knife was too sharp. So, but yeah, I'd go with the E5. Josh, do you have another one you'd point us to? Anything to add?
This is an awesome tool. Like it's and it does a great job sharpening your knives. I would say that one of the best kitchen knife sharpeners is one that you use all the time. So whether that's like a ceramic rod or a honing steel that you have, if it's something that sits out and you use, that's one thing I do like about the E5 is it is pretty countertop friendly, and so it can stay out and be a good reminder to use it frequently.
Yep.
All right, we had a few questions about the precision adjust, so we may as well talk about that. I know that's people have been really excited about it, and again, we're working really hard to keep up with the demand. This has been a fun product for us to come out with. I love using it personally, and I'm really stoked that you guys all love it. At least seems like most people really like it. Already answered, it will be available end of January, early February. You should be able to find much more available inventory at wherever you're shopping for knives and sharpeners. When are more accessories coming at? Well, let's answer this one. Additional grits coming for the PA. Yes, there are more coming. Sometime. Water or oil with the PA, the precision adjust, or any other sharpeners. I'll get nerdy with you guys for half a second here. So the reason that you use, there's a couple reasons, and there's some people that swear by. There's some people that swear by using water or oil with a sharpener. A whetstone is designed, or an oil stone is designed to use a lubricant, and it's less of a tool to lubricate the sliding the knife on the stone. And actually what it's doing is that as the stone is soaked in water, that water comes up and surrounds the fine points of the abrasive that are sticking up out of the stone and supports them with hydraulic force. And so as you press your knife down onto the stone, it pressurizes the water right under the blade. And the pressurized water helps to stand up the sharp abrasive particles and cut the hard steel, which is really cool and fascinating that's how that works. And that's why a stone, and a whetstone specifically, needs to be wet to use it. If it's not wet, then a lot of those sharp points of the abrasive will break off and pack down into the stone, and the stone smooths over and becomes nearly worthless. The same concept is true when oil is applied to a stone. It's a hydraulic, or I guess the oil version of a hydraulic force, supporting the fine abrasive particles. Another benefit to using a liquid is that it maintains a little bit of a slurry. And so as you're sharpening, there's pieces of abrasive that break off, and there's pieces of the knife that are removed from the steel, and that builds this puddle that is then used to also sharpen as that stays on the top of your working surface. That can happen on diamond stones and other stones as well, where any pieces of abrasive then sit back on the stone and are used to resharpen. Some have claimed, and I would bet it would be true, I haven't done a study, but that using a water or a liquid of some sort on the stone, a diamond stone, would help the diamond stone last longer. I haven't done a significant study to know that, but I could understand that that would be true, simply because, again, there's some hydraulic force there, so it protects any abrasive from breaking off, and it builds that slurry, so you likely sharpen with fewer passes. It does involve a little bit more of a mess anytime you introduce a liquid to sharpening, so usually I don't do that. But specifically with water stones, that's why it happens, and you can do it on any other stones for a variety of benefits. That was kind of nerdy. I hope it didn't lose anyone. But back to the precision adjust here. People asked about other accessories, different tools coming, or different components coming. Overall, yes, we're really committed to this sharpener, but I would be really interested. Leave us some comments either on this video, or find some image on Instagram or another video to comment on YouTube, and let us know what you guys want to see with this. We have engineers actively working on designing either pieces and components and expanded abrasive selections to make this sharpener the tool that you guys all want to use the most for sharpening. And we're really interested in your input as we continue to do some research and build tools. So leave those comments. We seriously have lists running in-house for how we can build out this sharpener, and we read that.
Definitely.
Okay. Enough about precision adjust, at least for now. Let's. I'll jump in. I'll see what's. People. All right. 15 degrees, is that the correct angle for a fillet knife? Sure. It's really a matter of preference at that point, and I don't know what your fillet knife is, but 15 to 20 degrees. One thing I like to do is be able to replicate a knife that's a knife that may be used in the kitchen and in the field, like a fillet knife maybe. I would like to replicate the angle at home that I can continue to touch up in the field. And so keep that in mind as you sharpen any field knife, whether it be a hunting knife or a camp knife or a fishing knife, something that has use in both places.
Yep. That's a good point.
Okay, let me catch up here. Feed you a couple, Kyle. That's a fun one. Which work sharp produces the highest quality edge? I feel like that could be like a multiple choice test question.
Like you could have a different answer from every person in the building when it comes to that. But I have been having a blast with the precision adjust myself lately. I love how detailed you can get, and also for me, with the belt, I feel like it's just more material, more stuff going on. I know you can have a lot of control with that. With this, I feel like I can take my time and really get in and pay attention to what I'm doing and see the results as they're happening. It takes longer, but I like that. I like to be methodical when I'm sharpening my knife and see exactly what I'm doing. And this really lets me get in there and pay attention to what I'm doing when it comes to sharpening. So I feel like you can get some really cool results with this. You can also get really technical with it. And we're going to have Kyle Crawford on with us soon to talk about some of the really cool techniques you can do with this in a couple weeks. So tune in for that, and we can show you some neat tips and tricks you can do on the precision adjust. But just getting a really refined edge, I think this is the best for me and my approach when it comes to sharpening a knife. You might have a different opinion. What's your go-to?
Man, it is so much user preference, and I don't want to leap off. That video coming will be awesome. Kyle sharpens some. Kyle's the brand manager for WorkSharp and had a big hand in how this showed up and came to be. Mm-hmm. Some of the techniques that you can put in here are awesome. You know, are you going back and forth? Are you sweeping the edge? Are you making small circles? why, how many passes do you make before you switch sides? Do you use all the grits that you have, the 3 that are currently existing? Do you change the angle? Do you leave the angle? There's a lot of different factors that come into play when you look into this in depth, and I'm excited for you guys to hear more about what Kyle thinks about it, because he showed me a knife that he sharpened on the other day, and it's probably the sharpest knife I've ever seen. The consistency that you get here, because you've taken out any error that I introduced by adjusting the angle from stroke to stroke, creates an incredibly consistent result, which I really love. Depending on the knife, the blade grinding attachment offers a slightly higher level of versatility, and does have a wide range of belts, along with the belts that, like I said earlier, you can add compound to. And so you can get a really, really nice result on that. It produces a convex edge, which is another matter of preference. This is a flat or a flat ground edge. Really, it's a matter of preference, but something to consider. Either this one or the blade grinding attachment will give you excellent results.
That would be other route I would go, as a blade grinding attachment. It's just a little more skill based, I would say, with the blade grinding attachment. But I wouldn't let that intimidate anyone. It's a lot of fun to learn, that's for sure, when it comes to that one. So.
Sharpening gut hooks. Can you sharpen a gut hook to a mirror polish? Yes. I would recommend either the Ken Onion edition or the original knife and tool sharpener, and using the fine 6,000 grit belt. With the Ken Onion edition, we kept the same belt size for this fine 6,000 grit, and that was very intentional. This belt is 1/2 inch wide and very, very flexible. Let me get this off here. And so because it's so flexible, it can fit inside of this gut hook and sharpen that relatively easily, where other tools, even like a ceramic rod, may not reach inside of it. As you can see, this has been sharpened on that with this method, with that 6,000 grit belt, and it has quite a fine polish. Personally, I'm curious what the use of a mirror polish on a gut hook is. I would use gut hooks for quick cutting for ropes, for field dressing an animal, or you could use it for some form of like box opening if you wanted to. But in any of those uses, that's not like a fine detail use. It's a quick cutting job rather than something you would use an X-Acto knife for.
Right.
Because of that, I don't know that it needs to be this super high polished edge.
Right.
But yes, it can be done. Using a flexible belt is the way that I would do that on one of our work sharp sharpeners.
Yep.
Anything else there?
No. As long as it's sharp and it cuts, I think that does the job. From my drill sharpening days, we used to say, do you want it to look nice or do you want it to cut? And most of the time, cut was
we want it to cut.
was the priority.
Yep. Okay, back over to some of the someone's got a Grand Fours Brook axe. What's the best work sharp product to use? Guided field sharpener, guided sharpening system with upgrades, or the Whetstone? I'm gonna look this up real quick, but assuming this is a relatively typical axe, I would imagine that you could sharpen it with a powered sharpener and be a lot faster and get really good results. Let me look up exactly what he's looking at. Yeah, pretty typical, nice, looks like a really nice nice style axe. So if you are using a field sharpener, I would bring the sharpener to the axe. So I'm going to hold it in my hand, use it like a large file. I would use the coarse to start with. With an axe, it's heavy. It's a large or thick spine, if you will, if we're comparing to knives, and we want to remove a lot of material to restore that edge. If you want more consistency, you can clamp this down in a vise or rest it on a jig or something on a workbench so that you have exactly a consistent angle and can repeat that each time. Progress down, and I would progress through each abrasive, the fine diamond, the ceramic, and even polishing with the leather. You can get great results by stropping an axe. Might seem crazy, but if that's what you're going for, it works really well. Mm-hmm. You can also use any of the powered sharpeners. On any sharpener, really one of the biggest keys with sharpening is getting access to the cutting edge that you're trying to cut. Someone earlier asked about sharpening like the blades of a wood chipper, and so they're a 5-inch blade. Yes, you could, as long as you can remove that and get access to an abrasive, you can bring that to either the blade grinding attachment or to a diamond file, something like the field sharpener, or the guided sharpening system, just a diamond benched top sharpener. Yep. Access to the cutting edge is the big deal there.
One that comes to mind, actually, off the top of my head, that I get through Instagram quite a bit, is curved blades. So like this karambit, sharpening that. And what would you use to accomplish that, Josh?
On a daily basis, I would maintain an edge with some sort of a ceramic rod that provides me access to like the whole inside cutting edge. If I need to go back and actually sharpen it, though, a flat plate is quite a challenge, and so I would use some form of a belt sharpener. You could also use like a diamond rod system. We happen to have one on the pivot sharpener or the pivot plus. And you could use that, but that's extremely freehand, and I don't love that idea. I would probably use something like this, especially something like a nice knife like this on the blade grinding attachment, where I can have full access to the inside of that cutting edge, and the belt will form to the recurve the elite sharpener, the blade grinder.
Yep.
Would the guided field sharpener be suitable for the U.S. Navy? I think I can legally say yes without any ramifications. Obviously, we haven't made any claims that it's military grade, but we've got military guys all over the world that are using our sharpeners and love them. And so, yes, I can confidently say that I know that. I'm working with a guy recently who is starting a knife company, and he's an ex-Navy SEAL, and said that field sharpener is awesome and something that they used, and that's where he actually discovered WorkSharp. So super, super cool. I can confidently say that. Yes, the tool grinding attachment was discontinued. You said why. I can share some of that. I think that it didn't sell a lot. It really was something that the enthusiasts loved. Personally, I can say that as well, but it didn't ever justify itself as far as a tool that we switch our production line over and build just small batches at a time. Never say never. There's potential that we'll expand on the Ken Onion platform as well, offering more tools. We got some questions about sharpening single bevels. Someone's asking about single bevel broad axe, and I think I saw someone asking about single bevel knives. I love single bevel knives, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about with that, imagine a knife that only is sharpened on one side. So this sharp edge would only be ground in on one side, and the other side just has the primary bevel that drops straight down. I don't have a great example of that in front of me, but based on that edge geometry, you only sharpen the side with the sharpened bevel ground in. And then on the back side, there will be a burr developed, and so I like to remove that burr just by doing a reverse stropping stroke on the back side, barely touching, or barely laying it more than flat, matching that primary grind and just knocking that burr off. And you may have to strop back and forth a few times to get that burr to fall off, but that way you're not removing any material from the backside, especially if you've got a coated blade. Obviously, I've used mine a bit, but that way you don't have to remove any of the coating with any stronger abrasive or more coarse abrasive.
Similar to serrations, someone asked that as well. What's the best way to approach serrations? So
Good call.
yeah. Go
Is
ahead.
that this knife?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah. So after you would sharpen the serrations, similar. There's no bevel ground into the back here. It is flat, just like a single bevel knife would be. And so removing the burr would just be a reverse stroke on leather. But first, what happens when you sharpen serrations is you have to get access to those cutting edges, and so a tapered diamond rod or a tapered ceramic rod is an excellent way to get inside of there. This is our pivot plus, like $8, I think.
So.
And you can get inside and kind of find where that rod nests into that and work it around. And what you're doing is you're just working up a little bit of a burr, making sure that those teeth are restored. And coming back, you can feel that burr and remove it with the leather. You could use the fine ceramic rod if you like, but it's you would likely remove a little bit of material, or maybe make a really, really fine line at the bottom of the coating, which if you use your knife, it's likely already there.
Yep.
There's already some wear there, but if not, then just be careful and stick
Something
with
to
the
be aware
leather.
of if you're keeping it pretty.
Yep. Yeah, awesome. Night squats. My backpack needs a work sharp morale patch. What's a boy to do? I want to show my support for your brand. That's awesome. Again, we're flattered. Shoot us a message on Instagram. Not everyone's going to do this, but shoot us a message on Instagram, and I think we have some patches we can shoot out. Just got on. Will more precision adjust grits be available? Yes. Go back a little bit longer and
Yeah, saw that. Thanks, honey.
I can't advise on replacing the bearings in the WorkSharp 3000, but our customer service team can. You can get a hold of them, info@worksharptools.com, or give them a phone call. But I think email's best right now, as we've got most people working out of the office. They're more than happy to help, and the customer service team is awesome.
Yep.
Any questions after this? If we don't answer your questions, which we might not get to everyone, customer service is awesome.
Yeah, they do live chat through the website as well from 7 to 3 Pacific Standard Time. So you can pop on there and get your questions answered there as well. So.
All right, back into a couple of the other ones. Does WorkSharp make a compound or diamond paste? We do sell these. We've got the red and the green compound on our website, worksharptools.com. You can go into the accessories tab, abrasives and accessories, and these are available on their own. They're also available under the Ken Onion edition, the blade grinder, or as a part of the upgrade kit for the guided sharpening system. It comes with a couple of extra angle guides, so you can strop to 22 degrees with a micro bevel, the leather strop, and it comes with some petroleum jelly, which is a great tool for adding a little bit of like lubrication, or just kind of bringing that stone or that strop back to life. Awesome. Yeah, good little kit, and some tips for
I'd encourage you guys to pop into our website and just check out the accessories section for a lot of our sharpeners. I think you'll be surprised at what supports we offer on there. We get a lot of questions on Instagram where I'm constantly pointing people that direction. So pop in there, check it out, and see if there's something you didn't even know that your sharpener had available for it.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. We get a lot of questions about that too, and our goal is to make sure that that you guys, customers, can use your sharpeners and get the most life out of them.
Yep.
Good question here. How much pressure do I use when sharpening during the sharpening sweep? It varies, but here's what I would recommend, and maybe some guys will jump into the comments and disagree or set their own preference. But here's kind of what I do. If my knife is dull, this is mine and it's sharp. Then I'll start either on a coarse or a medium grit, and I'll use a medium amount of pressure, less than I would use if I was sharpening an axe.
Stand back.
So if I yeah, I'll rest the field sharpener on the table, get it set on the angle, and I'm going to use maybe 6 to 8 pounds of force. And that's like the weight of my hands, and maybe some of my arms, but I'm not leaning onto it. I'm standing back and I'm going to hold on to it. But, I'm pushing into it, but I'm not leaning onto it.
No white knuckles, just
no white knuckles. And I'm just trying to figure out if I can get a burr. And I got one, starting from midpoint up to the tip, so I got to focus on the heel. One tip with pressure that I think is a game changer for sharpening is now after I repeat the same number of strokes on the other side and my bevel is consistent, before I progress down to the fine grit, I would do, 1 or 2 more strokes on the coarse grit with lighter pressure. And this will help to pull some of those striations out and make this single grit act with properties of both the coarse grit and a slightly finer grit. As I progress down, I'm not using the same level of pressure, but I am still using some. I'm keeping solid contact. And usually after my first abrasive, all subsequent abrasives that I use, the medium diamond, a fine ceramic, and an extra fine or a strop, I'm going to alternate strokes, 1 stroke per side. This way I'm not removing any more material than I need to by focusing on one side at a time, working one side down and then bringing the other to it. I'm just barely bringing them together, not overdoing it on one side, and then correcting by shifting gears.
You can use that same approach with our powered sharpeners as well as you progress down to where you're alternating strokes instead of working one side down than the other.
Yep.
Same concept.
The precision adjust too, all of it. That'll give any existing abrasive that you have a little bit more, I want to call it life, but really it's giving it double action as a slightly more coarse with more pressure and slightly finer with finer pressure. You can get a lot. And that's actually how we manage some of our power sharpeners, specifically the kitchen sharpeners. By one belt offering multiple speeds, that belt performs differently, offering a refined edge with only one standard abrasive.
And that's what I didn't point out when I was talking about the E5 earlier, is that button push all it's doing is changing the speed of the belt. It's not necessarily in the amount of time that you're using it. It's not necessarily changing your abrasive over, although that is an option if you want to get really technical with it.
Any Whetstone recommendations? Well, we haven't talked a whole lot about the Whetstone, so I'll bring it out here again. I'll run through a few basics. Hopefully we're covering those for everyone. Soak the stone, whichever Whetstone you're using, soak it until there's no more bubbles. Like I mentioned earlier, it's important to make sure the stone is saturated with water. It's supporting the abrasive in the stone. It's not just creating that slurry on top. I like using an angle guide. I think that it's really helpful in establishing some consistency. And let's see. The next thing I would recommend is just practice. I'm gonna just dump a little bit of water on here and get it going. But basically, do what is comfortable to you. I see a lot of people with different strokes and different techniques, from resting the knife on the guide and making one push through, or again, you could start with just the tip and you can make that stroke through the other way. Or something that I like to do is, I'll get that angle and then I'll find a pattern that works really well for me. and I can come back and I can check my angle every so often as I bump back into the guide. I like doing that because it works into a rhythm, and I get a lot of practice. I'm feeling that edge. I'm feeling when I'm set on that edge versus when I'm barely rocked off of it. And with a whetstone, it takes a little bit more time to sharpen. The abrasive is finer, and it's more fragile, hence why we need the water on the stone. And so the stone is eroded as you're sharpening, whereas on a diamond, the diamond is eroded at a much slower rate as you're sharpening. And so it does take a little longer to sharpen on a whetstone. Because of that, it takes more passes. Because of that, you're more likely to have inconsistency. So practice, practice, practice. You've picked up whetstone sharpening a little bit recently. What are some tips you have?
That would be it. For me, the biggest thing was learning to feel. You can actually feel that bevel and that angle, and getting a feel for that. And that just takes doing it, getting in there and actually getting a feel for what that angle is. And I mean, if you jump into a whetstone without a guide, that's a hard thing to learn. The guide definitely helps you kind of put the training wheels on for that. And then eventually you can get to the point where you don't need the guides anymore. You just know what that feel is when you're at 15 degrees or 17 or 20, whatever it is you're going for. But definitely to start out, I love having the guides and just being able to like identify where that consistent angle is. And that leads into good sharpening habits for any of our sharpeners, to be able to know what that edge is. But for whatever reason, doing it on a whetstone really kind of made it click for me when it came to identifying what that angle is and how to hold it consistently. So
especially with a large knife or a kitchen knife, which is usually what would be sharpened on a whetstone, you've got like a 2-inch wide or 2 1/4 inch wide abrasive that you can rest on, rather than 1 inch where you're feeling where that is,
right,
or just one point of a ceramic rod that you're feeling. This gives you just a wide base to feel exactly where that angle's rested at.
Yep.
And I know this is set at 15 degrees right now. I would probably sharpen this knife closer to like 25
Yep.
degrees. It's
Keep
kind
yourself
of
out of trouble there.
a hard working knife. Someone will say it.
Someone will say, "What are you doing with that knife?"
Good question here. How often do you add petroleum jelly and hunting compound to a leather strop before every use? No, not before every use. Rarely. I shared a video recently about the guided field sharpener and specifically resetting or maintaining the strop. So watch that if you want more detail on it. I cover more basics. I'll remember what I can remember and share with you. A petroleum jelly I would only use rarely and very lightly. You don't need a lot of it. Just when you notice that the strop is looking dry, or maybe you think it could use more compound, but it didn't seem to hold it. On this strop, I can see here that on the edges, it's not totally worked in, and so I might add just a little bit of petroleum jelly to the edges, and again, like just a tiny bit. A little goes a long way, and you can always add more later. And then I would rub that compound in, and then I would use a knife to extra work that in and press it in. With the hard steel of the knife, you can push the compound in more effectively than I can if I'm just using my finger. So not before every use, just rarely as needed. One of the things to keep in mind, if you aren't happy with the way your strop is performing, you could totally reset the strop. What I would do is I would work it with really hot water, and that hot water is going to break down any of the oil in the petroleum jelly, or it doesn't have to be petroleum jelly. It can be like boot oil, mink oil, something like some other form of like a leather oil. And it's going to help that come out of the strop and release any debris. If you've got a field sharpener in your pack and it gets dirty and you pick up some mud and dirt, or you've been sharpening a bunch of 20 CV steels and now you're going back to sharpening your standard knockaround pocket knives, then that 20 CV steel particles are going to be in the strop and they're going to be scratching the edge of your softer steel knives. So if you want to reset that, hot water, really scrub it, clean it out. That will kind of reset it, let it dry out totally. Add in a little bit of oil back, and then your compound, and that'll reestablish consistency.
Yep.
I wouldn't imagine you need to do that very often. Again, as needed or like every couple years. It's really not a common thing. These strops are also replaceable. It's just a strong adhesive on there. Again, they're on worksharptools.com.
That's where I was going to go. I'm lazy and just replace that thing whenever I swap out because they're cheap.
Totally. Totally. All right. We are going to wrap this up at noon Pacific. So we got 8 minutes left. I want to be respectful of your time. Any other questions, throw them in the comments section right now. We'll try to do a rapid fire, just kind of hammer through some of these. How long can the Ken Onion Elite be left running? Can it be used continuously for several knives, or does the motor need time to cool down? The motor cools while it's running. You can leave it on. We sharpen at trade shows, or like we partner with Benchmade, and at SHOT Show we hang out in their booth and we sharpen for part of their Life Sharp service while they're on the road and they can't bring their like large industrial sharpeners. We use those. They'll run for the full 8 hours a day with minimal breaks, sharpening. I think it's like 150 knives a day.
Yeah.
And they never shut off, and we just recently replaced those machines after like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, just running.
And they were running fine. We just figured we better get some new ones in there just in case. So they should be able to run for a long time. We're going to make a powered precision adjust sharpener, a mix of the Ken Onion and the precision adjust. Great suggestion. Keep it up. I don't know. I will talk to the engineers because that could be really cool, but I'm not picturing it right now.
Right.
Could be interesting.
Best of both worlds.
The best of both. Basically like a jig that brings it up to the, I can kind of see that, you know, you got the Elite sharpener. Oh, we'll see what happens here. Like you had the Elite sharpener and then you just had this tower that like pivoted.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, I shouldn't talk about that. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Let's see. Other questions. Someone's downloading Instagram just for us.
Nice.
Awesome.
Right on.
Not seeing a ton more questions come in. What's in my pocket? I'm carrying my mini Crooked River knife I've had for a long time. And I love it, and I beat it up, and I wish Benchmade you could just buy the blade because I want a new one, but it's good.
And at the top of the show, I showed off my new Christmas present, which is the Mini Osborne that just came out, which I'm pretty excited about. Normally, I carry, it's another Benchmade. It's old, like at least 10 years old. It was the first knife my now wife got for me back when we were dating. And I don't even know what the model is, but it's been my everyday carry forever.
Just got the Ken Onion belt sharpener for Christmas. Really like it. Should I look out for a leather strop? I answered something similar to this. But you can flat strop for now, and as you wear out that fine belt, work a compound into it, and it becomes more of a stropping belt. But there's no need to go buy a specific belt for that. You can if you want to, but the compound works great. Be careful not to round tips on the blade grinding attachment, but wouldn't that be very quick to fix with a BGA? Yes. Do be careful. If you're leaning on it too hard, that belt will conform and round the tip. And so I want to be very careful about that. That's not proper use. I would, as you're coming across that belt, use good control and support, and stop as that tip comes into the middle of the belt, and then just lift off. But if you're turning into it too sharp, you know, obviously, if you're turning into a belt, you're gonna round your tip.
Yep.
But come into it where that belt is, or where the tip is halfway across the belt, and then just lift off.
That's best practice for any belt sharpening, whether it's the Elite or any of our sharpeners. If you stop with the tip halfway across the belt, you'll get little to no tip rounding ever. Where we see that happening is when you're pulling across the belt, and that belt just literally wraps across. I mean, it's just physics wrapping around the tip of your knife. Eventually, it takes a long time before you're going to notice it, but it'll start to round the tip of your knife. But if you just stop middle of the belt, it's not a problem.
Yep. So. Same thing on any diamond or other sharpeners. If if you're running a knife real hard and pushing hard and dropping it off the tip, you're potentially going to chip or round that very tip, and it's not going to be that sticky, sharp feeling that you want. Jeffrey says, I'm going to contact sharpeningsupplies.com about my precision adjust order. I'm not happy. Again, we said it a few times. It's been awesome for us to see the demand coming from this. We're shipping these out as fast as we can. Yep. We're waiting. We're bottlenecked on a couple of parts that came in. You guys really surprised us with how much you like this sharpener. Please don't take it out on sharpeningsupplies.com. Great company, great guys over there, and we'll get you those. We're getting those sharpeners to them right now. They should have a few coming to be shipping out this week, I would expect.
And it's not just the demand, it's also just 2020 has been a rough year as far as getting supplies, and so just getting parts in has been part of that bottleneck as well. So just bear with us. We are doing everything we can to get that back in stock, and I promise you it'll be soon. So
on that note, we did have a question on Instagram. I think someone asked if our sharpeners are all made in China. No, but we get parts from all over the world, including China, including Vietnam. Many of them come from here in the United States, but we do get parts from all over the world. We have about our company's about 120 people, and we've got about 60 people working in our factory who are putting together these tools, who are hand assembling a lot of the pieces. But we get parts from all over the place. Right. I appreciate you guys asking, and it's important to us to have and support our jobs and our economies here. So we're proud to be an American company, and we use parts from all over the world. That's part of the issue with precision adjust too. Like you said, global logistics are just stressed right now. Yep. So as everyone and as you guys likely experienced with holiday buying, we're all in that same boat together. All right. Well, looks like we're having a happy new year, and we're excited for 2021. Yep. We've got more plans for more sharpeners and more videos. Keep submitting questions that you guys want. Like I said at the beginning, follow us on Instagram or go to our website, sign up for our email, comment on a YouTube video, ask your questions. We read those, and it's your comments that we use to determine what videos we're making. Yep. We send over your comments to our engineering team to make sure they have great ideas for what to build into new sharpeners. You guys, as our customers, our audience, you guys are our focus and our obsession. So please, we appreciate all of the engagement that we get from you guys. And cheers to 2021 with you as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Josh said it all. You said it all, man.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, guys.